Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. There is a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brothers, and this is the translation of the message that was sent to me. Strange things indeed happen in this world. The message reads like this. Hello my brother, can you please post for me as anonymous? I am a man who is aged 58 years old. I am currently staying here in Zimbabwe. I am currently staying at my auntie's house. She left one of her properties in my name. The property that she left in my name, it is the suburb house that is here in Borodale, where I am currently staying. Then she had her second property, which was in Mount Pleasant. But that property that is in Mount Pleasant, it is used as an income that is generated from the rent that is paid by the tenants that are staying there in Mount Pleasant. My brother, when I grew up in a very poor environment, deep in the rural areas of Mutoko. So growing up, we always heard that in Harare, we had this other auntie of ours. She was quite a wealthy woman. She and her husband, they were both very wealthy. But when I was growing up, I never understood as to why my parents were so poor like that. So many nights we could go to bed hungry without eating anything. Yet our auntie was quite a very wealthy woman who had two properties which were in Harare. So this auntie of mine, I only got the opportunity to see her when I was at the age of 19. It was way after I had dropped out of school, and the time when she had came to our village, what had happened, Brother Nash, is that there was this other uncle of mine. This uncle of mine, he was a brother to my father, so he had passed away. After he had passed away, that was when we saw this very beautiful car. At that time, my auntie, she was driving an Isuzu pickup. It was still quite brand new and a good one. So when she came, at the back of that Isuzu, there were some of her workers, and there was a coffin and a lot of groceries, which she then said that the groceries were supposed to be used at that funeral. And my brother, the reason why people accepted this gift that came in form of a coffin for my uncle and the grocery that was supposed to be used at that funeral, it was because we were so much deep into poverty. Before our auntie had came, there was not even a plan on how we were going to get the money so that we can bury our uncle with dignity. My father and his sisters, they had actually negotiated with this other man. He was a village carpenter, so he was the one who was going to make just a makeshift coffin so that our uncle can be buried with a little bit of dignity. Then out of nowhere, we saw a very beautiful Isuzu pickup driving into the compound where we were gathered as a family to pay our last respects to our uncle. When our auntie walked out of her car, the first thing that she did, she started crying, and as she was crying, she kept on throwing herself to the ground, saying that she was so sorry that she had not managed to attend a lot of funerals that had happened in her family. And she blamed her husband. At that time, her husband, she said that he had already died, and he was the main reason as to why she could not attend all the funerals that had been happening in the family. But after I had started staying with my auntie, I then found out that this was nothing but a lie. I don't think that my auntie's husband was the one who was responsible as to why our auntie was not able to attend any funerals that were happening in the family. Growing up, we heard that the last funeral that our auntie had ever attended, there was this other auntie of mine. She was the firstborn from the family in which my father was born in. So when that auntie of ours, even though I never met her, when she died, that was the last funeral that this auntie that I ended up staying with only attended. When my grandparents died, our grandfather was the first one to die. Our auntie never came. They wrote a letter to her after the burial of our auntie's father, telling her that she was supposed to come and to see where they had buried her father, but she never responded to that letter. Then our grandmother passed away, and our grandmother, she passed away in quite a very painful way, because at that time there was no food, there was nothing. So she just collapsed to the ground one day. Then people found out that she had died, and after she had died, they tried to get into contact with our auntie. At that time, people now had access to mobile phones. So there was this other uncle of ours who was like the only one in the family there in the village who had a mobile phone. So they tried to get hold of our auntie to tell her that her mother, our grandmother, had passed away. But still, they said that after our auntie had been told this news, she never responded. It was as if there was nothing on the other side of the telephone. She never responded. She never said that she was sorry or she was on her way to come and to mourn for her mother. So at that time when she came, that was why she was crying like that, saying that all of these years, deep down in her heart, she felt so much sorrow, but there was nothing that she could do. She said that her husband was quite an abusive man who kept on telling her that she had been going around sleeping with a lot of men. So each and every time when our auntie wanted to come back to the village in which she grew up in, where most of her relatives were, her husband would say that if you go there, you are going to start sleeping around with some of your former friends. So she was claiming that she was not allowed. But when I started staying with her, I saw that this was not the truth. It was just a lie. After the burial of our uncle, as per our Shona culture, what we do is that when we come from the graves, then we sit down to have a family meeting to discuss about the future. But our auntie, she never waited. She just came straight from the grave. Then she got into her car. She nearly left even one of her workers when she screamed, because that worker of hers, who was a maid, she was busy washing the dishes on the other side. So she had not realized that our auntie and one of her other worker had already gotten into the car and she was about to drive off. That maid that used to work for our auntie, she had to chase down the car as our auntie was already driving out of the compound. With all of this strange behavior that our auntie had revealed to the family, but because she was someone who was really wealthy, when she said that she wanted to reconnect with her relatives, everyone was so excited and they wanted our auntie to start helping them. It was like everyone was just selling off their soul to our auntie. There was this other auntie of mine. She was just like my father. She was poor like my father, and she was a sister to my father. So she then spoke with my father and she told my father that she wanted to travel with me from the village going back to Harare. She said that she knew a couple of companies that were in need of workers. I was really excited because this was like the first time for me to visit the capital city of our country. So we got onto the bus, then we traveled to Harare. When we arrived to Harare, I then started staying with my auntie. She was staying in Mavuku. When we arrived at our auntie's house there in Mavuku, that was when I realized that our auntie was quite a poor woman. And as someone that wanted to be very successful, I didn't want the type of employment that my auntie wanted me to get into. She was saying that I was supposed to look for work as a security guard or to try to look for work as a gardener. This was like a no for me, even though I was not that educated. So when I started staying with my auntie there in Mavuku, what had happened is that my auntie, the one who was very rich, she had been trying to get in contact with me. So what she used to do is that my auntie, the one that I was staying with, the poor one, she had her neighbor who had a mobile phone. So she was the one who used to receive all the messages that were meant for me or for my auntie. But all along, what that poor auntie of mine used to do is that she would never pass on the messages that were meant for me, the messages that were coming from my auntie, the one that was really wealthy. When I heard that all along my auntie had been looking for me, and this poor auntie of mine, she had been hiding the fact that my auntie had been looking for me, I was really hurt, and it really pained me a lot, because I knew that the reason why my auntie had been looking for me, it was because she was trying to offer me an opportunity, or maybe just wanting me to work for her in one of her companies. So me and my auntie, the one that I was staying with, we really had a very bad confrontation when I told her that I had taken the mobile phone numbers that belonged to my rich auntie, and I was planning to go and see her, because this is the message that she had sent for me. She wanted me to come to her house, which was there in Borodale. So my auntie then told me that I was not allowed to go and visit my auntie, because there was a lot of stuff that needed to be sorted out first before any of our relatives could visit our auntie. But I refused, Brother Nashi, because I wanted to seek a better opportunity for my own life. What I did, Brother Nashi, is that one day when I had gotten the money, I then spoke with my auntie, and I told her that I wanted to go and visit this wealthy auntie of mine. And she said, if you walk out of that gate, make sure that you do not return back to this house. So I went indoors and I took the small bag that had a few of my belongings. Then I walked away. I told her that the other auntie of mine, if she was going to give me an opportunity in life, I was going to grab it. And she didn't have any right to stop me from grabbing that opportunity that my auntie wanted to give me, because she was not my father and she was not my mother. She was just like my relative, as was that auntie of mine, the same one that she was claiming to be a witch. So I left, Brother Nashi, and when I got into town, I was stuck. So I went to this other place where there was a phone shop. That was when I called my auntie. I told her that I didn't have any money for taxi. So she then said that she was going to come and pick me up in town.